Hi guys, meteorologist Lindsey Slater here. The sun. Whew, the sun is doing a lot, guys. The sun has been producing some serious flaring, especially in region 4366. This has been a sunspot cluster, very dynamic, complex structure that has been flaring up. Tons of activity. Look at how complex that is. It's a beta, gamma, delta, I believe. I always forget what the Greek numbers and letters there are. So beta, gamma. Yeah, I was right. I should just trust myself. Beta, gamma, delta. Um, it's in the eastern upper right quadrant of the northeastern part of the sun. This thing has already today, this is Groundhog Day, the 2nd of February, has produced 2 X-class flares, and it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 M-class flares. Has a 40% chance of giving us more X-class flares rather. And yesterday, this thing gave us some serious X-class flares. We, in fact, had you can see its progression. Look at that. Wow, that is incredible as it just kind of spread like horizontally. And it has produced, I believe yesterday, the biggest X-class flare we saw was 8.3. That is wild. So I'm using the website Space Weather Live, and you can go to their solar activity and click on solar flares. And you can see over the last, I'm going to go here. This was the part where it was like, boom, X class. So we had an X class yesterday, a 104. Then we had a big old M class. And then as we continue to go, I'm going to make this bigger, take this away. Look at that. This was the big guy. 8.1, 8.3 X class flare, and then we had another X class, and then we have M. And I mean, this is apparently, from what I've learned, a pretty common thing to happen during the descending phase of solar cycle 25. If I go to Swipsy's website, solar cycle 25, we can see where we're at in our solar cycle progression right here. So there can be, we are still in the descending phase. We will be in the descending phase through at least 2028 and then get to the doldrums around 2030 or so. So we are in the descending phase, and a lot of things can happen in that descending phase. And you can see that we have kind of capped off here with some pretty high numbers when it comes to our sunspot regions. That's how this is really interpreted, by looking at these sunspot regions. But yeah, the descending phase can really give us some good shows here. So I don't want you to think that just because we've already hit the peak of solar cycle 25 that we're all done. This thing is continuously producing some X-class flares, and according to Space Weather Live, this is where it was, and that is the coronagraph. Now remember, not all flares are going to give us CMEs. So you can get a flare, which again is an instantaneous thing that causes radio blackout. It's going to Swipsy's website. You can see that right there. R3 radio blackout is still ongoing from all these flares that have been happening on the sun. This is the region right here that we're looking at. This guy, you're going to notice, kind of see how it's like sparkling, and then it gives us a little psst, and that is the region that is giving us all of this activity. So the latest from this particular sunspot, that's a flare right there. And you see it actually launched something. So not every flare is going to launch plasma. When it launches plasma, now we're talking CME. So what we need to do is that we need to look at Enlil, which is what is going to help us determine if this was Earth directed or not. But these radio blackouts, that have all these X-class flares that have been happening, have really not given us much in the way of, have not really given us much in the way of any I'm trying to find radio blackouts right now, so hang on one second. These flares have not given us much in the way of CMEs. We've just had these radio blackouts. So right now, this radio blackout is right here. But over the last 24 hours, we have had quite a bit of some activity. Look at these radio blackouts. I mean, really peaking here. Just wow, look at that. That must have been the X-class flare. And then we didn't get X-ray flux for about 2 minutes during that time. And then it calmed down, and we had another X-class flare and another X-class flare. So we have had some issues with radio frequencies, obviously. But we need to look at Enlil when it comes to solar wind, and that's going to help us see if it was Earth-directed or not. So this is the latest Enlil. This was on the 31st, so this is not the one I'm looking for, because we didn't have anything. There's that little guy from before, but I'm looking for the X-class one. I wonder if that popped up yet. Here it is. This is the one with the X-class. So there is a minorly directed, Earth-directed CME. It does look like right here. we could see that make its way here by the 5th. And then here is, I believe, NASA's version. And you can see it right there. Boom. Maybe a glancing hit there. So we'll see. We'll see if it, if anything happens. But just because you have a big old flare does not mean you instantaneously get all these auroras and all of these issues. So, yeah, I'm going to keep an eye and see if there's any more Enlils or any more solar wind predictions that are dished out from this beautiful X-class flare. But yeah, it is pretty interesting that we're seeing that right now. Let's go back to Helioviewer so we can see the region. This is the one right now that I'm talking about. Beautiful, beautiful guy right here. And if we go back one day, you can just see just its progression right there. Just pretty amazing. Oops, sorry, went too far. So yeah, this is very typical of a declining phase or descending phase sun. If we go to, I believe, 211, I can see my coronal hole. We just have a little guy there, kind of center disk, right in the middle of the equator there, and also on the northeastern limb. Otherwise, I don't see 131 is going to be your best bet when it comes to flares. See how bright that looks? That's exactly what I'm talking about. That is a beautiful flare. 4366. That's the one we're keeping an eye on. There's all these other little guys too, but this has been the big ticket in town, and it keeps producing these flares. It is pretty wild. So, excuse me. So, yeah, that is what I have for the sun today. If I get Enlil, I'll be able to highlight if this is Earth directed or not. But otherwise, you guys have a good rest of your day.